Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Evan Barry, and today I'm going to be presenting my honors thesis, The Rainbow Connection, Relational Resilience of LGBTQ+ Individuals Navigating Sexual Identity and Community Beliefs in Conservative U.S. Contexts. This project began with a human question. What happens to relationships after someone comes out in an environment where that identity is not fully accepted? More specifically, what happens when people don't leave those relationships, but instead try and repair them? For many LGBTQ+ individuals, coming out is often discussed as a moment of identity. But in reality, it's also a relational event. It can reshape families, friendships, and community ties in profound ways. We know from existing research that many LGBTQ+ individuals experience rejection. But what is often overlooked is that many folks don't walk away, they stay connected. They continue to show up in those relationships, even when those relationships are strained. And that raises an important question. If relationships are disrupted by disclosure, then what happens next? What does it actually look like to try and rebuild them? When I dove into this and began reading about the literature, I noticed a significant pattern. There's a strong body of research documenting stigma, rejection, and harm. We understand a great deal about the negative outcomes associated with these experiences, but there is far less attention paid to what happens after rupture. We understand rejection. We don't fully understand repair. It's quieter, it's less visible, it's more complex, but it's also deeply important. This gap is what my research attempts to address. Thinking about this issue, I wanted to know most about the situations where these people found themselves. And the questions that came to my mind were, first, how do LGBTQ+ individuals repair relationships after identity disclosure? And second, what strategies are perceived as the most effective and why? To explore these questions, I used a qualitative design. Specifically, I conducted free-form, semi-structured interviews lasting about 60 to 90 minutes with each participant. This approach allowed the participants to describe their experiences and relationships in their own words, rather than giving them surveys and measuring variables. I focused on the meaning, the narrative, and the process. The goal was to identify patterns in how individuals navigate rupture and attempt to rebuild their connections. My study included 4 participants, all identified as LGBTQ+ adults over the age of 18. Each had been raised in conservative environments where identity disclosure felt risky or distressing. That includes some populations we might not immediately identify as conservative: military backgrounds, religious communities, recent immigrants from traditional cultures, certain geographic areas in the United States, as well as those who identify as politically conservative, all fall under this umbrella term. Importantly, all participants had experienced some form of relational rupture following disclosure and had engaged in repair. This allowed the study to focus not just on one point of disruption, but what comes after. So we're going to be moving into my findings now. From these interviews, what emerged was not a single pathway, but a set of recurring strategies. I want to walk through all 5 themes that appeared across the participants' experiences with you. The first theme is strategic self-presentation. Participants were highly aware of how they expressed themselves in different situations. They adjusted their language, their tone, and their level of disclosure in order to reduce conflict. This was not about inauthenticity, it was about navigating safety. Participants described monitoring themselves in conversations, choosing what to say and what to hold back, and this allowed them to remain in relationships without escalating tension. One participant described sitting through an openly negative conversation about gay men while remaining silent, and that was in order to protect their relationship. This illustrates an important point. Repair is not always confrontational. Sometimes it's careful, ongoing negotiations. Second theme is boundary setting without disconnection. Participants set limits in order to protect their emotional well-being, and at the same time they made deliberate efforts to remain connected. This often looked like maintaining relationships while creating distance and on certain topics. For example, some participants avoided discussing identity in front of extended family while still engaging in other aspects of relationship with immediate family, like birthdays and helping around the house. This reflects a balancing act. They were navigating safety on one side and connection on the other. Rather than choosing one over the other, they're trying to foster both. The third theme is emotional labor as a bridge. Participants often took on the role of managing other people's discomfort. They explained their identities, they corrected misconceptions, and they guided people through unfamiliar ideas. In many cases, they became the translators between their own experience and the beliefs of their families or communities. This required significant emotional effort, and it also highlights an important asymmetry. The responsibility for maintaining the relationships often fell on the LGBTQ+ individual. Rather than being passively accepted, participants were actively working to make these connections possible. The fourth theme is conditional acceptance. Often, when it occurred, acceptance was partial or inconsistent. Participants described relationships that improved over time, but still involved tension and limitation. Acceptance was shaped by external pressures, such as community norms or social expectations. This meant that repair did not necessarily lead to full understanding. Instead, relationships require ongoing negotiation. Participants were navigating what could be said, what could be acknowledged, and what remained unspoken. Repair, in this sense, is not a final state. It's an ongoing process. The fifth theme is identity and belief reframing. Participants didn't always leave their communities or belief systems. Instead, some reinterpreted them. This included reshaping religious beliefs, redefining identity within existing structures, and finding ways to remain connected without fully rejecting those environments. This challenges a common assumption that resilience requires leaving. For participants in this study, resilience involves staying and reworking meaning from within. Taken all together, these findings suggest that relational repair is not a single event or conversation. It's an ongoing process. Participants are not simply coping with their rejection. They're actively rebuilding their relationships. This produces emotional labor, strategic communication, and continuous adjustment for them throughout their relationships. Importantly, repair is not about returning to the past. It's about creating something new under changed conditions. So why does this matter? This research expands how we understand resilience. It shows that resiliency is not about resistance or escape. It also involves maintaining connection across difference. It also challenges the idea that leaving is the only path to well-being. For lots of folks, relationships remain deeply meaningful, even when they're imperfect. Understanding how people navigate these relationships can inform a more nuanced model in both support for clinical and social concerns. There were several limitations in my study to consider. The sample size is small, and the findings are not intended to be generalized. The participants represent a specific demographic and are not reflective of all LGBTQ plus experiences in this space. Additionally, the study is time limited and represents early exploration on the topic. These findings should not be understood as preliminary, these findings should be understood as preliminary but informative. The study suggests that relational repair is not about returning to something that once was. It's about rebuilding something fresh. Participants spoke of moments of growth, curiosity, and evolving understanding within their relationships. Even when acceptance was incomplete, change was still possible. These findings highlight the complexity of human connection. They remind us that relationships can adapt, even under strain, and that resilience can take the form of staying, negotiating, and continuing to reach towards one another. Thanks so much. There's one more. I'm happy to take questions if anyone has one. Okay. Oh, sure.
That was great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.
I wonder if, I know I'm aware of the limitations that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But were the people in these studies, or in this study, in therapy or counseling or something to help them with this,
Yes.
dual life that you're having?
Yes. So there does have to be, one of the common themes that we saw was a reintegration of identities. So very often people talk about how when they're young, they split and they keep one side of themselves for their friends and people that they trust, and the other side for front-facing, whether that's school, church, or at home with your family, a front-facing identity. But reintegration does need to happen for people to be happy, healthy adults and have sustainable relationships with others. And that's generally a path for people in their 20s. Therapy was huge for all the participants. And actually, therapy done by the participants' families was pivotal, really, really pivotal, and seemed to predict the rejectors' resiliency. Meaning the folks that had been through a little bit of therapy or more extensive therapy learned to accommodate the different identity faster and more easily.
That's good to know.
Yes, it's good to know. It's just a matter of getting people's parents into therapy.
Yeah,
that's all.
I was going to say, I guess that also depends on their willingness.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about the
Yes.
situation that I'm aware of, and there's no willingness
Yes.
on the rejected part.
Some of the rejectors actually started therapy not for their LGBTQ plus family member or child that was causing tension in the house, but for other things like grief, and it was incidental because the rejectors were so consumed with this. Of course, it came out in their therapy sessions. Right. So yeah, even the rejectors didn't necessarily go to therapy for this issue, but they found themselves in therapy and then started discussing this issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans? This is for your undergraduate degree,
Yes.
right? What
Yes.
are your plans going forward? Are you going to continue to work with this topic in any professional capacity?
I would be happy to. When my advisor returns, I'll discuss it with her. We had discussed an undergraduate publication of some kind. I would love to continue taking interviews. I don't know if that's going to work out. But ideally, for the fall, I would love to publish this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And graduate school?
Oh, I'm going to go to Palo Alto University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got
Great.
accepted. Yeah, very.
So any more questions for us? So I'm going to represent her and
advisor, Katie Trevino. Okay, so I'm going to read what she sent, and then we'll do the stole. I'll get over here. Kind of. Okay. So she writes, "Hi, Evan. Congratulations on the successful presentation of your honors thesis. I'm so sorry that I cannot be there today to say this in person, but it's a testament to the amazing student that you are, that you didn't bat an eye when I told you I had to be at a conference. This research study has clearly been a labor of love, and I feel it shows through from the care and nuance with which you interviewed your participants to the way you analyzed and presented your results. While limited, your identification of this research gap and methodology point to a sophisticated scientist practitioner in training. It was clear to me from our initial meeting that you were dedicated to the project, but also the profession of psychology. You're going to do amazing things, and I'm so happy that I was able to contribute to your training. Palo Alto University is lucky to have you in their graduate program. You earned that spot, and I hope that you know I have every faith in you. Now, please go out and celebrate." As a token of your work in the honors program, your stole and honors cord, which you should wear at graduation.